over to sell it to you.
Right.
My suggestion is, as a group of people, I'm going to call it the people who call themselves African American, Black, Negro, that group. Those people that are indigenous to Central North America. The people that the world comes over and sucks it like it's sucking oil out of the ground. We are a natural resource. We don't like to look at that because we call ourselves things. We call ourselves Africans. We call ourselves Black. We call ourselves other names that people have deemed necessary for us to have. That's how we think. So we don't produce. We're not connected to the land in any way. We're scared of it. We kill bugs. We scared of bugs. We're scared of everything. But we're so disconnected from nature, and the people that are connected to it are just going to come over here and eat up more of your resources. They just picking up the crumbs that the European hasn't got. They sucking natural gas out of your ground. They cutting down your trees. They taking over your rivers and lakes, and we just sitting there looking like, la, 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 la. It's okay. And it's not. So these foreigners, and we welcome them with open arms. They don't support you. They don't support nothing you do. They come over here to extract funds from you, and we give it up. Happily. We jump up in the air and take our heels together because we can do it, and that's the mindset that we have. Check out this next thing. How they do it after Thanksgiving, Black Friday.
They sure do call it that, right? Mm-hmm.
You said what?
I said, yeah, it sure is called that, Black Friday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're going to keep them in the black. You're going to keep them paid. You're not going to keep them you're going to be in the red, but they call it Black Friday. Come up. Isn't that what happened? Isn't this the time where we really disgrace ourselves by playing these games over and over again? So, that people can't take advantage. If we're not saying nothing about it, they cool with it. Check out the immigrants that you have from almost everywhere. Have Arabs, people from India, Russia, Poland, Taiwan, China, Japan, India, Africa. All these people coming over, taking these resources over here. What are we doing?
Well, it depends. Some people have secured, their land, and they're building and developing on it. Some people may invest and provide housing for others, but as like a large. Then there are some people who actually do have, their farms. There are some mom-and-pop grocery stores. But one thing that I have noticed, and I, tell people that I know, is that being that they have a small operation, sometimes they're not in a position to do a lot of hefty marketing and public relations. So everybody may not know about it. And one thing that has happened is that due to the social engineering is that many people are trained to think into like the big box mentality, to think that if it's not a big company or a big, large enterprise, then they're not worthy of support.
Right.
So,
right.
With that, and with this in mind, this is going back to what Prophet Noble Drew always says about returning back to the ancient mindset of your mothers and fathers, your forefathers and foremothers, because you think anciently by tradition, we were a self-sufficient people. We would know how to make. We were crafty, doing a lot of farming and things of that nature. So now it's a situation where people may ride right by a local farm and they will choose to get their food elsewhere. So,
right. Hello?
Yes, the phone had went out. Well, I'm surprised we made it this far because I've been having some issues here and there on Blog Talk on Thursdays. But, the phone had went out. Oh, what did you repeat yourself, please? Mhm.
No, I was listening to you. You were saying.
Oh no, I was just making my comment. You was like, "What are we doing?" And I was just saying that the consumerism and all the social engineering with getting people to support more like big box like retailers and suppliers. It has people in that mindset where they're just conditioned to support larger enterprises, and that there are some mom and pops and smaller micro enterprises that exist, but people may not know of them enough to support them.
Yes. There are a few of those, but I'm talking, but they're far and in between. The majority are people, the ones, especially the ones who live in the city, they're on the brink of catastrophe. Really, I'll give you an example. About a month ago, 6 weeks ago, you had a food stamp crisis across the nation. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, I do recall.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who get food stamps get it because it's money that they could use to buy something to eat. They really don't get anything, and the stuff that they buy is really, especially in the poor rural areas. I mean, there's a question out: should they buy sodas with food stamps? So the food stamp program is something that a lot of our people rely on. Everybody else relies on it too, but we're just going to focus on us, for the sake of the program. What if they should excuse the train? I'm here by a train.
Making me think of the Long Island Railroad. Why don't you?
It's funny that they would build a house this close to the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Now where were we now? I'm sorry.
Oh, you were talking about the EBT crisis, and you were talking about the dependency, and what happened. So what was, were you in the Alabama area or LA when that happened?
I was in Alabama when that happened. And a lot of our people, because a lot of our people are on disability. A lot of our people are on a lot of social programs that they're not getting out and working with the earth. We're not here. We're in harvest season now. You have brothers in Memphis, Tennessee. They're collecting black walnut. Black walnut is a medicine that we could use if we can't get in. Let's say this Obamacare don't work out the way they say it's going to work out. You see, he's having problems now. What are we going to produce for ourselves in case we get sick? What are we going to produce for ourselves when others won't produce for us?
Now, it's something that you bring this up here with the health, because one thing that I've found, Kerry, is that some people, and this is going back to the brainwashing component, everything starts with mental. Some people do know that they can return back to their olden ways with using traditional medicines, but they'll refuse it. And just like how people think that the big box retailers are better, many people are stuck in the mindset of thinking that if it did not come from a doctor, then it's no good. There is a large segment of people that are conscious, and they now know that, hey, no, our elders knew better. But now there are a lot of people that are still stuck. So one thing that I'm seeing is that it's just going to be a situation where it is going to be a handful and a few people that are currently conscious, and they are already living that lifestyle that, regardless of what happens with with Obamacare, many groups are even exempt from that, just from the essence of who they are and their Aboriginal stance. That doesn't even apply to them. But for other people, sometimes, they may be like, okay, it doesn't even matter what happens because they're already living a lifestyle to preserve themselves. But for the bulk of the people, if they do have that dependency and they're stuck in the brainwashing, I hate to say it, but it just is going to be what it is, and the people will have to wake up in their own due season.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the ways that we're going to have to be speaking, because normally when we talk, when brothers talk, we mainly focus on sports and females, and we really never, We don't ask serious questions of ourselves. We don't ask. I was watching a national championship game with some brothers last year, and I asked them, how come colleges like Miles College or Howard University or Grambling Universities, how come these colleges never play for the national championship? Since all these colleges are using our youth, our children, the economic windfall that we create for these people is crazy. How come we haven't developed these so-called historically black colleges or universities, or built some ones that would rival them? Why aren't we thinking in that vein that these things that we could do for ourselves? Why are we're hell bent on making sure other people are comfortable? And I just want to get behind the mindset of why that is. I want to understand, why do we find that we can't nothing. We got to make everybody else some money. We got to make everybody else rich. Why are we doing that? Deliberately.
And on that note, that brings forth the whole concept of just pretty much tapering down on what the energy that's being spent and the money that's going out. Because when you really start thinking about it, if us as a people, if we never, ever went shopping again, we would not miss anything, because people pretty much already have enough clothing. They have their shoes. Some people may have forgotten about that local cobbler that would put those taps on their shoes and repair their heels, so that they never really have to buy shoes, but very so often, here and there, but not very often. So with being a little bit more frugal, but so it's just, time to address those type of things. Because pretty much if you just need your basics, as if, your food, gas, and things of that nature for your transportation, you really don't need to spend a lot of money on access.
Well, I think we're going to find
And I just want to highlight this too, because it's a deep spiritual component with these matters. Because a lot of times the currency is spent and it goes out because people are trying to compensate for what they're lacking internally. So when people are spiritually fed, the desires decrease like crazy.
Yes.
So it's like when you have true, nourishment internally, you really don't have a desire to be like, oh, I got to go buy these 10 pair of shoes, or I got to go buy this new handbag, or oh, I got to go buy this because this person has this, so I have to keep up with what they're doing so I can look like that. I'm on top of the game. You're not even. You're on a whole nother plateau with it. So this goes back to really getting grounded about spiritual principles, divine creeds, knowing the difference between the higher self and the lower self, and all of that stuff comes into play with how people do engage in commerce and what they're doing. So I bring this up because when you, if you have a situation where the person lacks knowledge of self and they're very disconnected, especially with the truth about religion, history, politics, and whatever have you, then you have a situation where they may be getting a lot of access and may have a lot of fiat, and they have a lot of material, but being that they're not grounded with the principles, with national principles and things of that nature, what they have really is not going to benefit, or they're engaged into things that cannot benefit humanity at large. So this is why you would have a situation where you have, 50 to 60 plus brothers that might be raking in and bringing in millions of dollars, but you'll see that they'll never have a farm. They'll never have a grocery store chain, the basics and things of that nature.
Right.
So,
right.
This is why, too, with that, you may have a situation with thinking about like a fragmented and like the mindset as opposed to thinking like from a whole brain perspective. You'll have a situation even if there's like a conscious group of people that they may only talk about one specific thing, and if anybody brings anything to them that could benefit somebody in the areas of agriculture and whatever have you,